Good morning and welcome to the first video presentation on generating a metadata record with minimum mandatory elements for the EGDI platform. I'd like to thank Pavla for her previous presentation on the metadata cookbook. So I refer to that for new users as a more detailed and comprehensive guide in the metadata generation process. So to begin with, for new users, you will go to egdi.geology.cz. It is recommended that you request a login with username and password to be provided by Pavla and the Czech Geologic Survey team for your login details. So I previously have one available to myself. It's related to the Mine to Sea project. So I have my username, mind_Trevor, and my password, and I click OK. This will allow me as a user to log into the EGDI Metadata Catalogue in administration mode. So my username is visible on the top right-hand side, as you can see here. So for new users to generate metadata records, you simply go to the menu bar and see New Record. Clicking on New Record, you will choose what type of data you're generating your metadata for. In most cases, for the GeoEra projects, it will be spatial data metadata ISO 19115, which is toggled by default as the choice. You will choose your group for editing and viewing the metadata. So it's recommended that you keep the group for editing as editor, which will allow Pavla and the team at the Czech survey to review and edit any content that has been generated. For viewing, it's standard reader. You choose your metadata language for the GeoEra project. It's going to be set as English for default, but if you want to generate metadata in any other European language, you can set that there. At the bottom, as you scroll down, there is a Create button, which opens up the standard EGDI-Lite metadata input form. The important steps to learn at the very beginning for generating metadata is that you must create a minimum set of metadata to meet Inspire metadata implementing rules. These elements with an open empty form are visible in red on the right-hand side. So we will now go down through these forms and create content, making the metadata record valid for the purposes of Inspire compliance through MICHCA. To begin with, you can click on the first metadata element, which is your resource title. This is the name of your data set. So I have an example here, Mine to Sea test metadata, or Mine to Sea test dataset, work package 3. Going back to the validator on the right-hand side, you can click on resource abstract, and you write basically a summary description of your dataset. It is recommended that you click on the Validate button to validate your metadata as you go along. So you see clearly as you save in the validation process, the metadata elements that are invalid will become less and less to you as a user. So the next item that's invalid is unique resource identifier. It is recommended that you use your unique resource identifier as the name or the URI from the EGDI Geology Metadata MICHCA Catalogue. So the example here is I literally paste that in there and I provide a text value for my URI. It'll be, in most cases, it'll be the name of your data set. So for example, seafloor massive sulfide deposits would be the name of a data set from work package 3 in Mine to Sea. Code space, it's not a requirement, but it's recommended you can provide it in. It's basically a string identifying the authority maintaining the codes. In this case, you can probably say MICHCA. The next item is the resource language, number 7. Let's click on that, brings you to the resource language. You will have a code list. So we have English. Next item is topic category. So again, you choose the most appropriate topic category from the list of code lists that's provided. So in this case, it's geoscientific information. Again, we'll validate. So those items will disappear from the list of invalid elements. You go to geographic bounding box. You can draw a box around your area of where your data set is covered. So in the case of mine to see, it's European. And that puts in the minimum and maximum X and Y longitude, latitude values for your metadata. Again, I'm validating as I'm going along. That saves our record. Now we do the reference dates. So your date, for example, we'll use as part of the training course today, 15th of April. Date type, publication, again, validate. Next item is lineage. If you do not understand what an element means, you can literally click on the identifier icon. It explains that it's a general explanation of the data producer's knowledge about the lineage of the data set. So this is basically an explanation on how was the data created. So it can be steps: a ship went to sea, a survey took place, an instrument was deployed, it collected some sediments from the bottom of the sea, and the minerals were analyzed in a laboratory to ascertain what percentage of the sediment was this type of mineral, so on and so forth. Again, validating as you're going along, reducing the number of elements that are invalid on the right-hand side. Now, this one is very important, 17.1, specification. Specification refers to the conformity of your data to the INSPIRE directive. So it's recommended, is your data interoperable under the INSPIRE directive? And this references, does your data fulfill the INSPIRE data specifications on the appropriate INSPIRE theme that your data may model to? In the purposes of the Mine to Sea project, we have been modeling our data to mineral resources, and we are evaluated against that. So we can say that, yes, we've evaluated the degree of conformance to INSPIRE. In most cases, it would probably be expected that you haven't evaluated your data because you've not modeled it on the INSPIRE data specifications. But the support team are there and available to provide you more information if you're unsure as to what value to implement in that case. Again, clicking on validate to the next minimum item. So conditions applying to access and use. So this is associated with the license for access and use to your data. So in GeoEra, it has been accepted and adopted that the Creative Commons BY 4.0 license is associated with all data produced in the project. Under the other description field, you can provide access and resources to materials associated with that license. So for example, you can provide a link to the Creative Commons URI. So basically, if you Google Creative Commons for attribution license, you'll get a link, and you can literally just copy and paste that in to the next field. Limitations on public access will bring you down to the next section. So it's recommended that you choose no limitations to public access. And under other description, you can see it's a see INSPIRE directive for more details. Again, validate, and the number of your elements that are invalid will reduce. So now we're going to responsible party name. So this is the person you associate with that project, and you can choose from a code list here. There's a number of individuals who are associated with certain projects. We'll see here now examples of, so we can improve that list. If the person isn't there, I think you should be able to type in your own name. No. So it's a matter of then getting the individual from the list. I think we have for own value and enter. Let's see now. So Iker is one of the people involved in the Mine to Sea projects. He's from the Geological Survey of Spain, and you can see it's input in details on Iker as a point of contact as a responsible party. The role recommended for the responsible party is custodian, and that comes from this drop-down list here. So it's set as default, so that's the recommended role. Again, going back to making sure that you meet your minimum requirements. Let's validate on the right-hand side. So now the metadata point of contact. So let's go to name. Again, we can say eCare, organization, validate, and number 24, distribution format. So in most cases, the distribution format for spatial data is going to be GeoPackage, which is a SQLite database. Version, for example, in mine2c is ArcGIS version 10.x. Again, back to and validate. And then the final element that appears to be red is spatial representation type. So you click on that. Again, it's a code list. In our case, it's vector data because we're submitting points or polygons. If your data is a raster image, you can use grid from the drop-down list. Again, if you're unsure as to what information you want associated with that element, you literally click on the information icon and it explains how your data is spatially referenced. So again, validate, save that record, and now you should be able to save your full metadata record because there's no invalid elements on the right-hand side. So there you go. As a user, you click save, and that saves your metadata record. You stop, and you exit out, and your minimum requirements for meeting Inspire metadata implementing rules, technical guidelines in the MICHCA catalog for the EGDI data platform is complete.